The ninth largest house in the United States is Meadow Brook Hall. This Tudor Revival mansion boasts 88,000 square feet and 110 rooms, ranking among the largest historic homes in the nation. Built between 1926 and 1929 by Matilda Dodge Wilson, an auto industry heiress, and her second husband, Alfred Wilson, it was envisioned as an American castle on a 1,400-acre estate. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. This video is brought to you in part by Victorian Society in America. More on them later. The story of Meadow Brook Hall begins with the Dodge brothers, whose automotive empire laid the financial foundation for the great estate. John Francis Dodge and his younger brother Horace were born in the 1860s and grew up in Michigan. Natural machinist, the brothers started out making bicycles in the 1890s and then opened a new machine shop in Detroit, supplying parts to the nascent auto industry. By 1902, they were building transmissions for Oldsmobile, earning a reputation for quality. Soon after, Henry Ford contracted the Dodge brothers to produce engines, axles, and transmissions for his cars, payment coming partly as stock in Ford's company. This partnership proved lucrative. In 1919, the Dodges sold their Ford stock back to Henry Ford for a staggering $25 million, freeing them to pursue their own automotive venture. But back in 1913, John and Horace launched Dodge Brothers Motor Car Company to produce their own line of automobiles. Their first car, a sturdy four-cylinder touring car, debuted in 1914 and was an instant success. By 1915, they sold 45,000 vehicles, and within a few years, Dodge was America's third-largest automaker, behind only Ford and Chevrolet. The company expanded into trucks and supplied the U.S. military during World War I, further cementing the Dodge name in the industry. John Dodge, the elder brother, was the business-minded partner and even served as a vice president of Ford Motor Car Company during their decade as suppliers. Going back a bit further, in 1908, John Dodge bought a 320-acre farm in the rolling hills near Rochester, Michigan, where he and Horace would escape on weekends from the bustle of Detroit. It was on those Meadow Brook Farm hills that the brothers allegedly test drove their early cars and even brainstormed for plans for their company in the fresh country air. The seeds of an automotive empire and the future mansion were quite literally planted on that pastoral estate. Tragically, the Dodge brothers' meteoric rise was cut short. In January 1920, while attending an auto show in New York, both John and Horace contracted influenza, which turned to pneumonia. John Dodge passed away that year at age 55, and Horace followed soon after. Their untimely deaths rocked the automotive world. John's death left his family, including his wife Matilda, in control of a vast fortune and a major stake in the company. By 1925, the value of the company had soared, and that year, the brothers' widows made a fateful decision. They sold Dodge to Dillon, Reed & Company for $146 million. At the time, this sum was mind-boggling, equivalent to over $2.7 billion in today's dollars, and it instantly made Matilda Dodge and Horace's widow among the wealthiest women in America. For a few years, Matilda focused on settling the estate and caring for her family. Then, as the Dodge sale in 1925 converted the company into liquid capital, Matilda entered a new chapter. She had continued to honor John's legacy, even maintaining Meadow Brook Farms, but Matilda was still only in her early 40s, and fate soon brought her a second chance at love. Through Detroit's First Presbyterian Church, she met Alfred Gaston Wilson, a lumber broker and self-made businessman originally from Wisconsin. The two formed a close friendship that blossomed into a romance, and in 1925, they tied the knot. With their combined wealth, they set out to construct a mansion that would reflect their passions, hospitality, and love of architecture. Before breaking ground, the Wilsons undertook a spectacular honeymoon tour of Europe in 1925, bringing along an unusual companion, their architect. Eager to model their future home on the grandest estates of England and Europe, Matilda and Alfred invited William E. Capp, a young architect from Detroit, to travel with them across Britain. By the time the Wilsons returned to Michigan, they had a head full of ideas and an architect ready to bring them to life. Designing and building Meadow Brook Hall was an immense undertaking, one that Matilda approached with gusto. The vision was to create an American estate that felt centuries old, as if transplanted from the English countryside. Architect William Capp's design firmly embraced the Tudor Revival or Jacobean style, emulating English manor houses of the 1500s and 1600s. The mansion that rose on the property between 1926 and 1929 is a tour de force of Tudor-inspired architecture and craftsmanship. Its exterior features a rich mix of materials and forms, walls of brick and limestone, sections of half timbering with stucco infill, and a complex, rambling layout that puzzles the eye at first glance. The house is essentially L-shaped in plan, but one might hardly notice as it is broken up by a profusion of projecting gables, bay windows, dormers, oriel windows, and battlements that create an irregular picturesque silhouette. This asymmetry, a hallmark of Tudor Revival, makes the mansion feel organically evolved, as though added to by successive generations. One of Meadow Brook Hall's most striking exterior features is its forest of chimneys. No less than 39 chimneys, grouped in 14 clusters, rise from the manor's steeply pitched clay tile roofs, each chimney uniquely designed. These towering brick chimneys, with intricate patterned brickwork and stone crowns, were directly inspired by those at Henry VIII's Hampton Court Palace and the Tudor Manor Compton Wynets in England. The attention to detail didn't stop at the roofline. The main entrance to the hall is a grand Tudor arched doorway adorned with stone carvings, including the crest of the Dodge and Wilson families, carved figures representing the four seasons, and even little sculptures of Michigan's native animals. With all that being said, I think it's about time we headed inside, but before we do, a quick word about the sponsor of this video, Victorian Society in America. Are you captivated by historic architecture? Want to explore, learn, and dive even deeper into the past? With the Victorian Society in America, you'll have the chance to travel to American cities and tour stunning 19th century buildings, pursue learning through internationally acclaimed summer programs in American cities and abroad, including Chicago, Newport, and London to name a few. Additionally, members will enjoy a free subscription to 19th Century, the semi-annual publication packed with articles on art, architecture, preservation awards, and book reviews. Visit the website below in the video description and become part of the Victorian Society in America today. Thank you, Victorian Society in America, for sponsoring this video. Now back to our tour. Inside the 110-room mansion are 23 bedrooms, 25 bathrooms, and 24 fireplaces, each fireplace paired with those distinctive chimneys overhead. The interiors were outfitted with the finest materials: oak and walnut woodwork, marble and tile, ornate plaster, and sumptuous textiles. Much of the decor intentionally imitates famous rooms of English estates, fulfilling the Wilsons' desire for authenticity. One of the centerpiece spaces is the Great Hall, essentially the mansion's main living room or gathering hall. It features soaring ceilings with heavy oak beams and rich linen-fulled oak paneling on the walls. A massive stone fireplace anchors the room, and leaded glass windows flood the space with filtered light. Another famed room is the dining room, a showpiece of elaborate decoration. Its ceiling is a work of art, a mottled plaster design intricately carved by Corrado Parducci, a celebrated Detroit sculptor. Parducci's ceiling incorporates classical motifs and was inspired by the wood carvings of Master Greenling Gibbons at an English estate in Lincolnshire. Around the walls, carved pilasters and a sumptuous fireplace create a formal atmosphere. When the Wilsons hosted dinners, the long dining table would be set with fine china and silver under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers reflecting off the ornate plasterwork. Everywhere you turn in Meadow Brook Hall, there is some unique custom detail to discover. In Alfred Wilson's private study, for instance, runs a burl oak frieze, a continuous carved wood panel that depicts scenes from Alfred's own life, essentially narrating the story of the lumber baron in art. The grand main staircase is another marvel. Its balustrated newel posts are hand-carved with intricate patterns and family emblems, showcasing the pinnacle of wood craftsmanship. Throughout the mansion, thematic motifs tie to core to function in delightful ways. Matilda paid attention to whimsical details like custom door latches, with many doors having unique bronze latch plates decorated with motifs that match the room's purpose. For instance, a library door latch might incorporate an open book design, while the dining pantry latch might show a cluster of grapes. Such touches were conversation pieces and reflected the Wilsons' playful side amidst the formality. The mansion also housed an immense collection of art and artifacts that the Wilsons amassed. Matilda was a patron of the arts and used her fortune to acquire fine paintings and decorative pieces to adorn her home. To this day, Meadow Brook Hall displays original Old Master paintings by the likes of Anthony Van Dyck, Joshua Reynolds, John Constable, Thomas Gainsborough, and others, which Matilda proudly collected. She was also fond of more contemporary works. For example, American painter Louis Betts painted portraits of the family that hung in the home. In total, more than 75,000 artifacts, from furniture to textiles to silverware, have been cataloged in Meadow Brook Hall, a staggering assemblage that reflects the Wilsons' taste and the era's opulence. As Matilda once chronicled in a guidebook to her home, she took pleasure in guiding guests through each room and introducing them to her beloved art collection. Meadowbrook Hall may have been completed in 1929, but the lives of Matilda and Alfred Wilson continue to evolve through the ensuing decades. The couple settled into a routine of gracious country living mixed with civic engagement. They endured the Great Depression of the 1930s, which arrived mere weeks after they moved in. The Wilson family also grew and changed. Matilda and Alfred had no biological children together, but in the 1930s they adopted two children, a son Richard and a daughter Barbara, completing their family circle. Matilda in particular emerged from the shadow of widowhood to become a respected public figure in Michigan. In 1940, Michigan's governor appointed her as the 43rd Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, making her one of the first women in U.S. history to hold such a high state office. Notably, she was a member of the Michigan State University Board of Trustees from 1931 to 1937, lending her farming experience and support to the agricultural college that would later benefit so greatly from her generosity. During World War II, Meadowbrook Farms contributed to the war effort by increasing production, and Matilda was involved in war bond drives and relief charities, leveraging her social position for good causes. Alfred Wilson, for his part, had quietly retired from his lumber business after marrying Matilda, and he devoted himself to managing the estate and supporting Matilda's endeavors. As the years went on, the Wilsons adjusted their lifestyle to their stage in life. By the early 1950s, with children grown and the couple aging, they decided the enormous hall was a bit too much to live in day to day. In the early 1950s, they built Sunset Terrace, a smaller yet still sizable retirement home on the Meadowbrook estate, about a mile from the big house. The grand mansion on the knoll went largely quiet, used for only special events. One of the most remarkable chapters of Matilda and Alfred's life came in 1957. That year, driven by their deep commitment to education and community, the Wilsons made a transformational gift. They donated Meadowbrook Hall, along with 1,500 acres of the estate and $2 million in cash, to Michigan State University. The donated land became the campus of Michigan State University Oakland, which opened in 1959 and later became the independent Oakland University in 1963. The Wilsons' gift instantly gave the fledgling school a ready-made campus. Classroom buildings were built on former pasture land, and the jewel of the campus was, and remains, Meadowbrook Hall itself. However, part of the arrangement allowed Matilda and Alfred to continue living on the estate, and even in the hall if they chose, for their lifetimes. In effect, they were giving the property to the public trust while still being its stewards. Over the years, the significance of Meadowbrook Hall has been formally recognized. It was designated a Michigan State Historic Site in 1976, listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1979, and in 2012 it achieved National Historic Landmark status, the highest recognition for a historic property in the U.S. It is frequently cited as the fourth largest historic house museum in the United States, and when including every private home ever built in the country, it proudly claims the title as the 9th largest. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. What did you think about Meadowbrook Hall? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd also like to say a special thank you to Victorian Society in America for sponsoring this video. Check out their link in the video description to find out how you can get involved today. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on This House.